Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to LiT Conversations, celebrating ladies' success in retail and tech. My name is Robin Leonard. I'm the co-founder and CEO of AFDigital, a Salesforce Gold consulting partner. I hope you're in a celebratory mood as we've prepared a very inspiring hour for you to get to know our four incredible speakers and how they maneuvered their business in this current crisis. We are painfully aware of how the pandemic has affected every business and individuals globally. But amidst this unique situation, we have seen women emerge. Political leaders, frontliners, and mothers have taken charge in the fight against the global pandemic. And we have also seen this in the tech and retail space, as retail is one of the most impacted industries today, when foot traffic has almost come to a halt. Businesses need to step up and modernize. So today, we've invited three tech-blazing ladies from amazing retail brands in a panel discussion to talk about their journeys into the tech and retail world and how they led their business to survive and thrive during a global crisis. More importantly, though, we're here to celebrate all ladies and all your successes in technology. Feel free to leave any questions for our speakers in the chat box on the side, and we will get back to them at the Q&A portion later. But before any of that, let me introduce to you our lovely keynote speaker. She is the Area Vice President for Salesforce Cloud Sales Business, who leads the company's business development and marketing efforts. She has spent over 20 years working for and with technology and media companies such as Crux, CBS, Yahoo, and now Salesforce. A mother of two, her greatest passions are motherhood, friendships, and yoga. Here to share her own journey, experiences, and advice as a lady working in the technology space, please welcome Jo Gaines.
Thank you so much, Robin and Pauline and the crew at AFDigital. It's so cool to be here. I feel like after that intro, though, I should have had a glass of wine or something with me. So I can do that.
That's a great suggestion, Jo.
We could do that at the end. So, Robin, a little bit about my journey. My journey has been non-linear. I certainly didn't start my career thinking I'd be working in technology. In fact, I thought I wanted to be a journalist. So when I left school, I actually went traveling for a year. And when I came back, I still didn't know what I wanted to do. And I got a job in a magazine company. And I thought that was my path into journalism, but actually it was my path into sales. And I was selling advertising. I joined the advertising department on a really hefty salary of $18,000 per annum, and crazy deadlines, crazy hours. So I didn't go to uni initially. I didn't go to uni until later on, and I studied psychology, so nothing to do with technology. But what I learned was a love for selling, and I've always had that love. And I think we're all selling. We've heard it before, right? And are sellers born or made? I think I was born to sell. And sales is fun when you're selling something you believe in. And I've certainly sold some things that probably didn't entirely believe in, and they haven't been the highlights of my career. I started in technology and digital because I found a passion for digital when I was working for a magazine company, and we developed a website. And the CEO at the time, this was in dial-up speed time, this was, I think 98, 99, said, I want the website to go faster, but I want more images. I was working for a music magazine at the time. And I was like, even I am not silly enough to think that that's possible, but it unleashed this passion and interest in how things work. And so that was when I started in digital. I joined my first digital company in 2000. But going back to selling, I think selling in itself isn't scary. Selling something, like I said, if you don't believe in it, selling something you don't believe in really is. And that's sort of the moral of the story, right? Is you should always be selling something you truly believe in. And in my job, I get to talk to the most wonderful people all the time. I'm so happy that I get to talk to customers like every day, you know, whether it's retail today, banking, you know, yesterday I was talking to a B2B law firm, Monday I was talking to an auto manufacturer. Like every day is something different and interesting. And selling to these customers is not about actually getting a yes out of them. It's about, you know, helping to uncover what's going on for them and how can we potentially solve something together. And if that's using the technology or the product that I'm selling, fantastic, you know, that's a great fit. But I'm not always selling to get to a yes. I'm selling to discover, you know, I'm selling to find out what that point of pain is and how can we solve for it. And so, Robin, you mentioned before, something that's really interesting is consumer behavior and habits and how they've changed over the last few months. I think we're all at home, we're not going on holidays, we're spending money on renovating, and I know we'll hear a little bit about that later, but we're all spending on making our homes better. And whether that's the floor or the doors or the, you know, dining room set, we're actually buying products now sight unseen. We're actually going, I need this, how can I get it easy, quickly delivered to my home? And we're actually not even seeing it physically. So I'm, you know, talking to a furniture manufacturer the other day, and he said, we've got these massive big stores, they're like warehouses. And now we're trying to figure out what we do with them because people are buying the things that they used to come in for online. I just bought a set of doors for downstairs and I haven't seen them. So, you know, our behavior has changed. So this is a different set of challenges and opportunities, I think, for our customers. So, you know, consumers now want convenience. How do we solve for that? I think the other thing that's important today is about, you know, talking about how we lift each other up as women. So amazing women here today on the call, incredible. And Pauline and Robin, this is a great initiative. So thank you for kicking off. This is the inaugural LiT conversation. Yes. So, you know, we have this history of, certainly in my career, that women, if they had a seat at the table, it was one woman. I've been in so many rooms where I've been the only woman. And so if we have that seat, we are the voice of women, right? So we're sitting there representing women, and then another woman comes along and has a different opinion, and sometimes we feel threatened by that. Sometimes it's seen as a bit of a challenge, and sometimes, you know, we've had to fight our way to have that seat at the table. So hang on, how did you get here? What are you doing here? And that's, we have to get over that, because the wonderful thing about women is that we bring curiosity without ego. You know, this is a very different style, right, Robin?
Absolutely.
You're the other man here, right?
I think for me, perceiving curiosity could almost be interchangeable, you know, and I think that's something that women uniquely bring with a strength.
Yeah, and I think that's it, right? Celebrate our strength, celebrate the fact that we are different and we do bring a different perspective, and that curiosity comes because we're eager to learn. We ask questions because we want to learn. And that's the wonderful thing about women. You know, my two little girls tell me that all the time. Mum, you listen to us. You know, we talk so much. You ask so many questions. And it's true. That's what women do. So always be developing your network. Always make sure that you're lifting each other up. I make it my purpose. Part of my purpose is to mentor other women. And that both within the organization I'm in, but also within the community. And my assistant tells me all the time that I take on too many mentoring opportunities, and my calendar's full of them. But I just love helping women to be better and to really believe in themselves and back themselves. So that's my message today. And your network is really important. Keep helping each other to build each other's network. And so I think that's probably the end of is that my 7-minute keynote up?
Thank you so much, Jo. That was really great. Thank you for that. And thank you for sharing your awesome story and your advice. For me, that certainly struck a bell in the sense of, that curiosity and that without that ego there as well. And yeah, it's really beautiful. Thank you. Where are we? Okay. Don't forget to leave your questions for Jo or for any of the speakers in the chat box. This webinar really aims to motivate both men and women to take that step towards future-proofing their business. Who knows when everything will be back to normal, right? So to us, it's really important to keep up with the times and be ready for any crisis. So how did other retailers do it? How do you future-proof and pandemic-proof your business? For our Fireside Lit chat, we've invited 3 amazing ladies from retail brands who boldly led their Salesforce tech implementation initiatives. For those of you who haven't heard about Salesforce yet, it's the world's #1 CRM platform that lets you ultimately automate your business processes and provide a smarter customer experience. Our 3 totally lit ladies have unique stories to tell, so let me introduce them. First up, we have Fiona Moylan, Global Director for Digital Data and eCommerce at Jurlique, a cosmetics manufacturer specializing in natural botanical-based skincare. She is one of the top 10 executives in eCommerce 2020 and has started her journey into technology way back in the mid-2000s. Next, we have Catherine Kelly, Chief Marketing Officer of Bunnik Travel Group, a tour operator specializing in holiday packages and small group tours. Catherine has been working in the retail and travel industries for over 15 years when she boldly stepped into the role of leading Bunnik's Salesforce transformation initiative right after her maternity leave. How awesome. Last, but definitely not least, we have Ingrid Powell, Digital Marketing's Flooring, a retail floor coverings group with over 140 stores across Australia and New Zealand. Ingrid was working in traditional marketing for 13 years in her company when her company offered her the opportunity to lead their online marketing department, and she happily accepted it. I personally can't wait to hear from these 3 ladies, so let's get started. Moderating this discussion will be our very own lady in tech, Pauline Pangan, AFDigital's founding director. Pauline, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Robin. I am so excited for everyone to hear from our totally lit guests and absolutely fabulous too. So let's start the fun and get right to it, shall we? So I'm certain every lady in tech has an interesting story to share. I heard from Jo. It's so fascinating for you to share that story. Thank you for that, Jo. So ladies, let's start with your journeys too. How did you find yourself in the tech world? Catherine, if we can start with you.
Well, I've been working in marketing for a couple of decades. Obviously, a lot has changed, not only professionally and what's available out there marketing-wise, but personally for me, I've become a mother in that time too. So I've gone from working for a retail department store who barely had a functioning website. I think we had a phone order department at that point in time who would, take the calls of people ringing up for item 1A from the brochure, to now working for a travel company that is really committed to using technology to drive future business growth. Obviously, once that pandemic is under a lot more control, but we were certainly on that journey before the COVID hit as well. So, for me, I guess I've worked in a role that traditionally was focused on print media and brochure production and has now sort of evolved quickly to cover emerging sort of digital opportunities as well.
Thank you. What about you, Ingrid?
Thanks, Pauline. Actually, I'm very similar to Catherine. I pretty much got into digital after I had my first child, which is about 8 years ago. I've been very lucky. I've been with Choices Flooring for nearly 17 years. So I've worked, I've worked in originally, you know, as a traditional marketing. So all the TV production, press advertising, you know, photo shoots, all that kind of thing. So after my maternity leave, my company asked me to come back and head up the online department. So I was the sole online person, which was very daunting because I actually hadn't studied anything in digital. So I've actually had to kind of self-teach myself. Well, I'm self-taught, but I've had some great consultants and some colleagues that have been able to sort of take me along the journey. So I've sort of gone from, you know, learning about TARPs for TV to click-through rates and that kind of thing. So when I first started in digital, we had a fairly basic website. And now the website, you know, boasts over nearly 2 million people a year, which is fantastic. So we actually had a lot of consultants on board as well, and we felt just we were kind of driven by what they thought was right, but we actually then thought, no, we really need to bring it internally. So I've headed up the department for the last 8 years, and then I had a staff member join about 5-6 years ago, because obviously with the company that is big as it is in terms of a retailer and a flooring retailer at that, we just needed that support. So yeah, it's been a very interesting 8 years learning about online, but I'm thoroughly enjoying it, and I'm really excited to sort of keep going with what I'm doing. So
I think it's quite common in the digital world that you really have to self-learn. Fiona, what about you?
Hi everyone, can you hear me? Okay. Very good. I started working within digital very mildly, but within 3M, so Minnesota Mining and Manufacturing. I actually was looking after the Scotch brand, which was really fun. It was a great job, and traveling around the world and sitting with the chemists in Minnesota with the guys who would develop adhesives. You know, it was such, and abrasives. It was the most fantastic job. And part of that role was you could take on additional projects, and one of the projects was leading the development of the DMR, which was in probably the early 2000s. Thanks, Robin, for saying mid-2000s. I'm a tiny bit older, but thank you. My skincare maybe is define my actual age. Thank you, Jurlique. So I was at 3M for about 7 years, and I studied statistics. I was a black belt for about 6 years working on projects, and I loved the digital projects. And from there, I moved into Westfield, which would have been in the early 2000s, and we started the Westfield.com or digital strategy, where the leadership team at Westfield, including the Lowy family, endorsed the idea of how are we going to use digital outside the traditional bricks and mortar retail strategy. And I worked with some amazing people at Westfield writing that strategy, and we were involved in every part of the launch of that project. And back in the mid-2000s, retailers weren't online, so we were negotiating the deals, building the site. Retailers who are still friends today would send CVs with an Excel spreadsheet. We would concatenate the files and take a guess on this JPEG equals that image and upload that. And you know, what is a foam skirt? I assume foam's white. Okay, guys, let's upload that and send it for proofing. So that was a really great intro into digital, because we were so hands-on the tools in terms of writing the SEO content ourselves, which we thought of like a sport. We loved it. How are we ranking today and so forth. So from Westfield, I moved into Jurlique about 5 years ago, and heading up the digital strategy and e-commerce channels, and also the development of a data strategy, because 5 years ago, digital within Jurlique, we didn't have CDMP, so that's where we started. So that's my journey.
It's so fascinating to journey back how digital, you know, evolved all through these years. Like what Robin said, you all know that retail and travel has been heavily battered by the pandemic. Can you share what has been the greatest challenge, and also what LiT Lady in Tech strategy did you implement immediately? Maybe if you can start with you, Fiona.
Absolutely. Start with me. We were quite lucky because we had our house in order, if you will, in terms of we had the CDMP built 2 years prior, and 2000 was the year we were going to really start getting some return on investment in terms of having a forensic view of the data and building really personalised relationships with the customer. So what we did is we started with how do we offer value to the customer? How do we alleviate the stress that is on the customer in terms of their shopping habits? And we looked at relevance, convenience, and trust. And that was around how do we provide products that they need, recommend products that perhaps have run out of stock and replenishment. We were looking at convenience in terms of shopping and delivery times, particularly to people who couldn't get to a store. And we were using personalisation for traditional store shoppers to give them comfort around coming online and shopping with us online, because we don't have a lot of crossover between multi-channel shoppers at Jurlique. Most of our shoppers want to go in store and touch and feel skincare. It's very personal, particularly Jurlique because it's very sensorial to smell and touch the creams. So we had to find a way to very quickly turn on services that would bridge the gap between the physical and digital, and that meant two really great things. One is we could turn on, because of Salesforce, live chat, and then we had, within a week and a half, it was live. And then we had live consultations, and then we're launching skincare diagnostics. But the best thing about it was that we had our fantastic retail staff manning the digital stores and the digital live chats. In the last 6 months, these traditional retailers who have been in our stores for years have become so passionate about digital and having that one-on-one communication. The feedback we're getting from customer service has been fantastic, like literally guiding people through the cart. Customers who might be in rural Australia and saying, don't panic, Beverly, here's how you use the cart and here's how you use the promo code, and guiding them through. So sorry, I tend to talk a lot. You need to give me a time, and you to, when I talk too much. Anyone who listens, it was very much around, building that trust, building that convenience, and using that data to drive people online and give them comfort around that, some security.
Awesome. And I'd like to hear the results of that. But let's hear first from both Catherine and maybe you can start, Catherine.
Yeah, well, our experience has been obviously the opposite at this stage. Working in travel, it's definitely a very heavily impacted industry and continues to be so. For us, it's really a massive challenge, and we've really focused, as well as every other person I know working in travel, on making sure our clients are assisted, making sure they got home and were home quickly and safely, and really working towards the best outcomes for each of our customers. But it's also meant that we've had to really look at ways we can diversify our business as well. We are a travel company that's focused on sending people overseas. We can't do that at the moment. So we really looked at, I'll talk to three things here, I guess. The first strategy was looking at a range of local tours here. We've always been really passionate about small group touring as being the best way to experience the world. And we sort of said, well, if we're so passionate about that as an international product, surely that same passion and that same theory behind a small group being the best way to tour a place is equally applicable here. So we quickly developed a small range of local tours and got those out to market quickly using our website and obviously our own channels of email and social, and using the Salesforce Marketing Cloud technology behind that too. We also acknowledged we needed to change our messaging very quickly, and we focused on really trying to deliver inspirational content to our audiences. And that was to encourage that ongoing connection with them, but to also foster that, I guess, community feel around, whilst we're all here in Australia, we can still be connected to the world and remember the good times of holidays and I guess aspire to one day go on holidays again. So that's been a really important shift in our marketing. It's one that's based on delivering a service to our customers rather than, I guess, a promotionally driven campaign. That's just not the right message at this point in time. And then thirdly, a sort of smaller string to our bow at this stage in the strategy is my marketing team and I looked at how we could also drive revenue for our business. And we've set up a marketing consultancy on the side where we offer our services to small businesses, so they can employ the skills of my team in a marketing function. So call on, you know, the professional services of up to 5 different marketing professionals at this stage, and really, you know, for a fraction of the cost of what it would cost them to employ someone full-time in-house. So it's something, you know, a little hustle on the side, but we're seeing good growth from that, and it's been, you know, just another way that whilst we're in this you know, terrible situation for the travel industry, it's just something else we've identified that we can do in our spare time, so to say, I guess, so to say at this point.
That's amazing. I love the side hustle, and I tell you, we're all dying to travel.
Well, I hope so. Fingers crossed. Yeah.
Especially here in Melbourne, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we think there's going to be a lot of pent-up demand, but obviously, you know, we've just got to get out the other side of this first.
I'm sure you guys are ready to service everybody when that happens.
Yes,
Ingrid.
absolutely.
Thanks, Pauline. Well, can I just say it was great to just hear Fiona and Catherine talk about how they view Salesforce, because we're actually in the very infant stages of using the program. So it really gives me great inspiration as to what we can do sort of moving on. And it would have been fabulous to have all of our stores on our chat, but that wasn't going to happen, unfortunately. In terms of retail, you know, obviously there's a lack of customer store traffic into our stores. But in saying that, we've been very lucky because we're part of the home renovation sector. So like your Bunnings and your Harvey Normans and those retailers, our demand for flooring has been exceptional. We've actually had some great results, even though it's a pandemic. Not huge results, but I don't think we had the dip in sales that we potentially thought we were going to have. I guess the main reason for that is people are working at home, working from home. So when you're at home all the time, you're looking at your floors. And as you said, Joe, you've bought 2 more doors because, you know, you wanted to update the house. So, you know, the home is now, you know, your haven, but it's also your home office. So we saw quite an increase in sales for our products, which is fantastic. So because we were in our infancy stage of Salesforce, we did one of the biggest technology implementations that we implemented on our website was a program called Room View. And it is a room visualizer where a customer can upload a photo of their room. They're sitting in their office, they're tired of the carpet, they take a photo, they upload it to the website, and immediately, and I think this is the big thing, people want to see immediate gratification, visualization, and that's what you can do with this program. So it's called Room View, and you can go through, you know, hundreds and hundreds of carpets and colors and textures and the new ranges in planks and timber and all that kind of thing. So we launched that mid-June, and we had such amazing engagement, and we had the biggest spike ever in the whole company's history, which is very exciting. So to date, it has been the biggest program we've implemented, and we're getting great traction. So what we can do now is customers that are sitting at home, they may not be able to go into store yet, especially when you're in Melbourne. You can't leave your house and go any further than 5Ks. They can upload their photo, send it to their local store and say, this is my room, this is my office, this is the look that I want. So in essence, it's taking a lot of the onus off our sales consultants as well in terms of the guesswork, and customers are providing the exact look that they want. So that's been our biggest tech implementation over the time, and it's been very exciting for us. And if I can just give a plug to anyone that's looking for flooring, it's called Room View, and it's on our website. So have a play around, because we do have a lot of feedback, and people come back saying, you know, I've been on Room View for like 3 hours, because what you think you like is essentially not what you end up buying. So yeah, it was a very exciting time for us.
I love that. You already kind of like answered this next question that I have, but I'm hoping you can expand further on this. How has technology emerged in terms of making you successful in this time, in this crisis? Maybe Catherine, we can start with you.
Well, we're still very much at a very early stage of emergence, but our tech stack has allowed us to quickly launch those new domestic tours, and will allow us to also get those international tours back out there when the time is right. In mid-February, I don't know how great the timing ended up being, but hey, it was an 18-month project that sort of came to an end in mid-Feb. We actually launched our redeveloped website, and that was built on the Salesforce Heroku platform. So I'm going to claim that as a success for this year. It was a long project, and it really the team worked so hard on that, and it was about delivering, I guess, a customer experience that was based on research. So we obviously did a lot of research there, and the design was there based on the user flows from that research as well. So we're hugely proud of that, and are looking forward to maximizing, I guess, that website when the time is right as well. But it's a beautiful website if you want to go and check it out, and it is built on Salesforce Heroku. So that's my success for the year, and also just continuing to engage that database of ours with inspirational communications.
Beautiful. What about you, Fiona? If you could just expound in terms of what you already shared earlier.
Sure. We, from a website point of view, we use Commerce Cloud at Salesforce. We have spent a lot of time on search and in terms of user experience on the site. So that's in terms of digital services, like I mentioned, like live chat and the interactive tools and so forth, and virtual consults. We've also spent a lot of time though on the real nuts and bolts of how do people search for products, what are the results, and how do we use our data to give personalized on-site experience. So we actually connect our CDMP in Salesforce, and it ingests all the customer profiles into the site. So Pauline, if you were on the site, you would be getting personalized recommendations and suggestions in terms of what works well with the range in which you've chosen. But the big shift for us, so that's been live for about a year now, which is great. We've expanded out probably about 2 months ago, where customer service now reports into myself, into the digital team. From a customer journey point of view, the technology we're using is Salesforce Service Cloud. And it was previously used in terms of the out-of-the-box features. But what we've done in the last 6 or 7 weeks with a brand new staff member and retail staff is, because the demand has been greater, because we are doing more outward bound personalised comms to our database and consumers regarding, we have dozens of journeys, consumer journeys for you to replenish. We can identify churn. We can look at anniversary, birthdays, and so forth. So that's in flight. But what has happened is we've had a massive spike in customers calling us directly, which makes sense through a pandemic. I want to talk to someone about why my promo code isn't working and I'm having trouble in the cart, or tell me more about this product. What that has meant is we have had some days where customer service, who now sits with us, having 4 or 5 times the amount of customer engagement. We've been able to use technology to basically triage those calls for our #1 customer service person who works in digital, our people who work in stores who can talk to product questions, to our people who are in education who can talk about more complex questions. And we've seen the productivity through that, through this COVID pandemic, has been so strong, but more importantly, having that direct customer relationship has meant we're actually talking to 4 or 5 people talking to customers a day, which happened previously, but the customer service people were dealing with wholesale and all global orders. Now they're just looking at these digital customers. We're getting insight on what customers like, why do they return, why they don't, what do they think of the email. I've never thought of buying that product. Why do you guys do those promo codes? I'm getting too many. We're getting true voice of customer data, but more importantly, when I present it to the board and leadership team, it's now in a succinct dashboard that just gets sent to the leadership team so they can see potentially next month's sentiment, how many cases we're closing. I think in the past we'd be closing 20 cases a day. There, at the moment, we're working through, I believe, our most wonderful, our newest staff members, only been with the business for 6 weeks, has been trained on the product and the technology, and she has literally worked so diligently and so smartly with that technology to start to automate the process with my team that we are shortening the gap on that delay of customers getting the information they need, because they want someone on the phone straight away. They want someone on live chat straight away. So it's not an overly sexy, exciting example, but you know, technology.
It sounds very sexy to me, because you've really broken down the silos in your organization, and it sounds like a 360-degree view of your customer.
Well, that was the gap. If you were to write the 360 plan, we always had this little sliver that was missing, which was that customer service piece and closing the ecosystem, if you will, within digital. It's just kind of filled that hole for us. And even the creative team are sitting with us just saying, what are customers saying, and is Nutri-Defined campaign resonating? Because we've watched this campaign with actual customers, in their 40s and 50s and 30s. How's it resonating? Having that direct feedback has been fantastic. But, technology has to support innovation, but more importantly, it has to drive sales, right? It's got to have a commercial benefit. There has to be value, and it also has to drive efficiency. So we would have, one person leading the charge where traditionally there could have been 4 or 5 on the phone with the help of tech.
That's amazing. Let's talk about the success. Maybe if you can start talking about, like the success that you've seen. Fiona, let's start with you, since you're on a roll here.
All right, let's go. I would say the success would be in terms of the quantity of customers we're talking to and the elapsed time from when they call through to responding, and trying to really bring that down to be in the hours, not in the days or weeks, which traditionally could have been the case. We're seeing dozens and dozens of live chats and virtual storefront and virtual chats. I think virtual chats actually booked out on the first day that we launched. We are seeing some really strong results out of our direct channel in terms of, I mentioned before that we have a very detailed and prescriptive customer journeys in terms of what customers are buying and their history. So being able to guide them along the journey, that's driving some significant growth for us. So in terms of sales, we are up in the double digits in terms of sales versus last year. Obviously, I can't present the sales, but it's significant and moving really strong. Traffic is still not where it needs to be. However, what we're doing is really focusing and using that data to look after our loyal customers, truly look after and understand them. As I said before, having that forensic view of that data. So we are seeing, double-digit growth through email, through paid media. We're using data for the CDMP for personalised lookalike audience through Facebook. And we're seeing some really, really strong conversion on the site. So because traffic is down, because my hypothesis is, wellness and skincare has become front and centre. I don't know if the ladies on this call and the ladies who are listening, you've never spent so much time at home, right? Which also means that you're examining every single part of your face. Obviously, I'm examining my hair today, but anyway, I never do. So you're spending a lot of time thinking about your health, your body, your skin, your wellness, and as such, you know, skincare and well-being has had a positive impact through COVID to a degree, but it also means that competition is quite tough. So traffic in digital, obviously traffic in stores is really down, as Ingrid mentioned, but traffic online is also, you know, it's not doubling, quadrupling, because competition is tough. But what is performing really well for us is we're driving some nice retention out to the customers we love and who love us, driving VIP campaigns to get them back into store. But the impact we are seeing through the conversion levels on the site are significant, and in some markets doubled.
Wow.
So it's site experience which is driving the sales for us, which is fantastic, because we wouldn't have been able to offer the services at the speed we did and the on-page experience if we hadn't upgraded the site, I don't believe.
That's awesome. Catherine, what about you? Can you share the success and perhaps the greatest learnings at the same time?
Yeah, so I think some of the successes we've experienced, I guess, in that relaunch of our website as well, was where we were able to automate some very manual processes before. We still have a mid-office system that it does talk to Salesforce, but it's clunky and it's not a full picture. You know, it's not a two-way sync, I guess, between the systems, but we've been able with a new website to really pull data from that mid-office system through to the new site, whereas before we had duplicated processes where our ops team were needing to put in dates and prices and statuses across two different systems. Just yeah, mind-boggling really that it was at that stage. But now that all flows seamlessly through into the website, so that's a real win for us, and particularly when things pick up out of the other side, will just really allow us to have you know, live data on that site. Some of the learnings I think from our Salesforce and Marketing Cloud implementation would be just in being realistic about what investment is required resource-wise and also financially, and making sure you have sort of a pretty clear digital roadmap and thinking of putting, I guess, that time in there up front. We've kind of been doing that as we've been on this journey, and then you sort of go, oh, why didn't I think about this, you know, a year ago, and this wouldn't be the nightmare it is today, things like that. So really, I mean, you're never going to sort of come up with a perfect plan, and if you waited to get that perfect plan, it would take you forever to implement things too. But I think there's got to be a balance between actually sort of sitting down and thinking about, you know, that big picture as best you can before you start sort of chipping away in that next phased approach, I guess. So that would be what my learning would be from this. Ingrid, how about you?
Very similar to Catherine, but obviously we're still in the start of our Marketing Cloud journey. So we've got internal systems that we had to connect together. So exactly what you're saying about just kind of, I guess, making sure that all the systems are in place and talking to each other, and really having a proper blueprint about what you need, because there's nothing worse than having it all implemented and then going back saying, hey, we needed that field, why hasn't that come across, and why can't we put that in the customer journey? So we're actually, success for us, we're starting our first trial next week for one of our stores, and this is data not coming from the website, this is actually real store data. So this is customers actually converting with quotes and the data coming into our system, and then being able to close that customer journey, remind them of quotes that are outstanding, send them information about, you know, their upcoming installation date, after purchase messages, that kind of thing. So that happens next week in WA, and we're ecstatic about starting it, because I want to be where you guys are this time next year, if possible. So yeah, and it's just also having a great team to work with. I mean, the AFDigital guys have been fantastic in helping us put our customer journeys together, and helping us kind of understand, I guess, the Salesforce jargon. I don't mean to be when you first come to Salesforce, it's quite overwhelming. So they've been a great buffer to really kind of help us along the way. So yeah, the team's been excellent, and they've been very patient with us because we obviously have to deal with internal shareholders as well. And being a cooperative, that can be a little bit slow sometimes, but everyone's definitely on board. The process just took a little longer than we thought, but yeah, we're very excited for next week.
Wow, I'm also very excited. It's been such a, a privilege to really be part of that journey for all of you guys. What about you, Fiona? We haven't heard your learnings yet.
My learnings would be, absolutely to shadow what Ingrid just said, would be choosing the right vendors, surrounding yourself by vendors who understand that in retail, particularly if you're in smaller retail business, you have a fair bit of pressure on you because you need to get that return on investment quite quickly. And there's not an endless pot of investment. So you have to be really sensible about how you put a value on on a digital investment, what the time is, what it's going to look like. And, the 3 metrics I use is cash, cost, and growth. So we wrote the digital roadmap pretty much within the first 2 or 3 months that I started, and then hired the team and then chose the vendors. A lot of the vendors that I chose back then, who I sat with all personally, and Robin's one of them that sat with me in Hong Kong about 2 years ago, I had a very frank conversation with them, which was, I don't have a lot of contingency. The scope is a scope. I'm signing it in blood. There's no extra slash fund. I don't have a slash fund. I had the same conversation with Salesforce when the guys came and presented. I was very honest with the fact that we all need to make a success of this. This business has to grow, and this technology can't be impressive. I don't care if it's impressive. It has to work. I can't go back to the board and say, I need another $250,000. There's no overspend. There's no rules. So we all shake hands on that. And I've done that with every vendor. And out of that has come very strong relationships with the vendors in terms of my expectations, the pressure I have on me to get the business to perform and my team. And some friendships have grown out of that based purely on honesty and having the just sitting back and being really honest, saying, A, I don't know everything, and B, you need to tell me everything, because if I have a blind spot and it costs me money, this is going to be a deal breaker for us. We can't have downtime. So it would be choosing your vendors and your partners. My team at Jurlique I'll get emotional talking about it. They're the most fantastic people I've ever worked with. They are diligent, smart. None of them are in the jobs or have the same job that when I hired them. One of the girls who now runs the CDMP came in within a marketing role, and now she is running BI, data, roadmap, Scrum, just glorious. But I mean, that role 5 years ago didn't exist. What would the JD have looked like? It's kind of merged into something just brilliant and very, very valuable. So team, looking after the team, looking after their well-being, really understanding what's driving and motivating them, because if you're not moving forward, then people aren't motivated. Vendors, and I would say at a really senior level, when you get the business plan and you get the investment, make sure that your leaders, you have alignment at the top, a deep understanding of what is expected, what you need, what it looks like, not just a sign off on a budget, but a real, everyone's got skin in the game. This is where we're heading, because I think of myself as, I love digital, but I'm more of an all-rounder, so more of a general manager, and I have a deep dive experience in digital, but I'm not just focused on digital, I'm looking at what it does within the retail sphere. That's the language you have to sit and use when you're talking with the leadership team. So it has nothing got to do with being digitally literate. It's more, what does commercially the ad look like, and what does the relationship with the customer look like? Making sure your leadership team really understand that that you're not a digital team who are just going off and tinkering with impressive digital stuff. It's not about tech, and it's not about digital and talking in code. It's about this technology is going to enable growth, innovation, retention, and making sure the leadership team understand that what you need from them. Because I have in the past had some projects where absolutely the budget has been approved, but just making sure everyone's still on that journey is my job, that everyone understands expectations, because they go from here to here overnight. So just getting that alignment at the top is so important. So you've got enough stress executing a tech stack and a digital transformation. You need everyone in the business to be right behind you.
Wow, so many things resonated to me. Like when you mentioned that about friendship, that's absolutely true. I think Robin and I can say, like, for us, this business and all our customers, like, we really develop that strong friendship with them, and we become emotionally involved with our businesses. And also, like, Robin and I also get emotional with how fantastic the team is. And yeah, I really like everything that you all shared. Robin, would you like to share something?
No, I want to hear from Joe actually on your lessons. What do you have to share, Joe?
My lessons, I just want to, like, bottle up these ladies and take them out with me when I'm talking to other. Let's go. Please, like, what actually someone just messaged me and said, we need Fiona on a slide. Everything, all of the lessons, But I think Ingrid talked about shareholders and stakeholders, and that's really interesting because our CEO talks about this a lot, right? We have a responsibility to shareholders and stakeholders. In our business as well, we're a business. We need to run a really strong, solid business, and we've had to innovate. We have been a company that's built success. I mean, we've been an events company, right? We've built our success on these incredible live in-person events, and we had to pivot and turn them all into virtual, all into digital, and change the way that we communicate with our customers from these incredible in-person, experiences to digital, virtual. Hello, is anyone there? Can you hear me? Even now on this call, it's like I can see there's some attendees, but are they there? So we've learned that we just have to change. And I've also learned from our customers that they always want to be learning. They don't know where to go. So one of the great things that we're able to do is to help with learning, to help curate content, to help connect people together. And I'll come back to that point of networking, right? Always be thinking about who you can connect with someone else. And I'm already thinking about who I can connect Ingrid and Catherine and Fiona with after this call, like-minded people, and you, of course, Pauline, but like-minded people, because we're not getting out there networking. We're not doing that sort of face-to-face. What have you learned? How are you finding it? What have you done? So, yeah, I'm learning a lot. That's the amazing thing out of this challenging situation.
That's really great. Thank you. Thank you so much. And I guess I just want to do a quick check-in. If there's any questions for our ladies, please add them to the questions or the chat. We don't have any questions right now, so please drop them in.
Yeah, and if anyone wants to, boldly ask the question right now before I ask my last question. Okay, so I'd like to hear your advice to other ladies in retail and tech industry. Even some of your parting or mantra that you've lived by. Maybe Ingrid, we can start with you.
Sure. When I was first asked to be part of this, it was about being a lady in tech, and I was kind of like, oh, okay, lady in tech. Is there a difference between a lady in tech and a man in tech? And I didn't really cross my mind, but I know that there might be a bit of gender inequality. But as a female, I'm just saying that other women that want to get into this industry is just don't doubt yourself. I think when you say technology, automatically people think it's IT, but it's not IT. It's not just fixing a computer or doing whatever. This is about being creative, but also being very analytic. So it's not a man's game or whatever. It's for someone that is analytic and, you know, can use both sides of the brain, I guess, which is what women do, don't we? Very well. Yeah. So it's don't doubt yourself, really use your partners. And don't feel, you know, no question is silly. I mean, I remember when I first met with, you know, Robin and Pauline, and everything was quite different. You know, there were words we hadn't used or terminologies we hadn't used, and just really always asking those questions, doing extra research, talking to other peers, even friends that might be in the same industry, and say, hey, you know, what do you use for CRM, or how have you kind of come about that? So it's really using your network, and yeah, just don't think that you can't do it, because you can. That's what I'd like to say.
Thank you. Catherine?
Yeah, well, that's really inspirational to hear that, I think, Ingrid. Like, I think for me, yeah, again, I didn't like to sort of identify myself as a lady in tech as such. I just think I'm a good communicator, and the value that I bring is being able to understand enough of the tech. I'm not, I can't code or anything like that, but I can speak with the dev team and the systems admins, and I understand what they're doing, and I can take that back to our exec team and distill it into a language that they understand as well, so that they appreciate the value of what we're doing, and I guess, yeah, the hurdles that the team are rolling through as well. So I like to think, yeah, to succeed in this industry, being a good communicator and having an appreciation of both an exec level summary and also the detail is absolutely a boon for anyone.
Thank you. Fiona?
I would say that I love what Catherine and Ingrid said. I agree. You know, when you asked for a quote for the article, I copied one of my favourites, which I always say to my team, which is a Roosevelt quote. It's not the critic that counts, because you're going to have a fair few as you navigate through digital. My advice would be, I'm just thinking about if I was on this call and I was starting off in the industry, what I'd really want to hear. My advice would be that humans thrive for connection, whether it's business, whether it's personal, whether it's at the school gates. When I first met Salesforce and the guys, I went to San Francisco, and I didn't have a huge travel budget, and I took my right-hand man, Alexa, with me, right-hand woman. Boring story, but here we go. Anywho, because we didn't have a big budget, we stayed about an hour and a half out of the city. So we would have to catch the bus in for Dreamforce because we were on a tight budget. And one night, the Salesforce guys met, and I said to them, I want to understand what Salesforce can do, budget. We sat, and I wrote up the architecture in terms of the journey that I wanted. And there was about 6 or 7 guys in the room from Salesforce, who I still deal with all of them. Rob, you were at Dreamforce then as well. And we just sat in a meeting room at 10 o'clock at night, and the 5 of us just sketched it out, and then we got a drink at the end, brought it into the conference room, sketched it out. Everyone's exhausted, everyone's been up since 5. I caught the bus at 5. So, but my point is, we cracked the architecture together as just a group of people who could have known each other our whole lives. The Salesforce contract was finally almost signed at a baggage terminal in Hong Kong with a guy that doesn't work at Salesforce anymore, where I said to him, I can't afford the current rate. If it's this, I'll do the deal. My point is, if you don't know the answers, ask the question. Don't go in combative where you think you already know the answers. Use the vendors like your Salesforce, your SEO team, or whatever, sit down and go, I don't know, or here's my plan, help me crack the plan, because the older I get, the more people on the ship, the better. Build those connections, because you build you just expand your own knowledge and take the pressure off yourself, because you don't have to be perfect. It's impossible to know it all. I don't know it all. My team would have forgotten more about digital than I actually know. That's fact. They just would. They're that good. But my point is, I have about 30 stories in the last 5 years at Jurlique with vendors where I have rang them going, you know, I've got a situation here, so talk me through how we navigate it. And every vendor has called me back, sometimes very late, early in the morning, where we've all flanked each other and said, here's how to navigate. So I would say build relationships, respectful relationships built on trust, where you get really smart people to educate the knowledge gaps that you've got. You know, it's the developers who I first met at Westfield, you know, in a room with 30 stinky developers going, oh my God, all these blokes, what are they working on? Why do they have earphones? This is insane. They're the first guys I called when I got the job at Jurlique to say, you know, come and pop the hood and have a look at what I'm dealing with here. And they were like, okay, let's do it. But the guys I was intimidated by for a microsecond have become my closest confidants. So build those, don't be scared. And as for gender, don't worry about that. My tip would be, you can be successful in business. You don't have to impersonate a bloke though. Just be yourself. Yeah.
So it's really the gifts of imperfections. It gives you connection. Right?
You're a Brene Brown fan, are you?
Yes, I am. You reminded me when you said it's not the critics' account, but
right. Yeah, totally.
It's maximizing the strengths of your team and the people around you.
Yeah, and just holding the wheel, because often your technology outpaces the culture. I found that, and there's been times I've been limping down Castle Ray Street after a couple of meetings with some old school IT guys where I've gone, I'm out of my depth. No, she'll be right. I'll shake it off. Scary.
Cool. Well, I think we're almost out of time. We're out of time.
Yeah, but we need to hear from Joe.
Yes.
Look, I was going to talk about networking, but I want to say a mantra: be the woman who fixes another woman's crown without telling the world it was broken.
Love it.
Nice.
Nice.
Really great. Really great. All right. Well, thank you everyone for attending the celebration. We definitely need a burst of inspiration and motivation during this pandemic, and we hope you have learned some lessons from our ladies today to help your business thrive. Before we end, we're inviting you to subscribe to Ladies in Tech to get the latest updates on this community, including events, content, and more. We really want Ladies in Tech to be a fun community where us ladies can be ourselves and share our successes. I can write this clearly. And even failures.
Robin.
So there'll be a link shared with us, and that's the end of our LiT Conversation webinar. We hope you're inspired and had fun with us. Stay tuned for our next celebration. Stay safe and have a great rest of the day.